Are our constitutional rights here in the United States being stomped on by government? That's what I'm here to talk about. Hi, my name is Todd. I want to thank you for tuning into the Teal Jack channel. I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch one of my videos. And what I'm discussing is some events that I have ran across here very recently and some videos that I have seen involving, in this case, a police officer. This first incident is Officer Greg Anderson of, I believe it was the Port of Seattle Police Department up in the Seattle area. And he posted a video that we could say went viral on discussing the issues surrounding police officers and, we'll say, executive orders by governors or mayors, and how police officers are enforcing those rules / laws that are actually unconstitutional. And in his video, he's appealing to fellow police officers to stand on the Constitution as they go about their job, and doing and enforcing the rules and regulations that fit within the Constitution and not superseding it or going around it. And this ultimately ended up in looking like Officer Greg Anderson got fired from his job. Why? Because he chose to spoke out, to stand on his moral convictions that police officers are here to enforce laws related to our Constitution and not enforce laws that are unconstitutional. Really makes a lot of sense. And it makes no sense at all that he was terminated. This is the kind of police officer that we need enforcing laws within the United States. Not only was he enforcing laws up in the Seattle area, but he also served in the U.S. military in a combat role, where he stood on the grounds of the Constitution that he swore to protect. And just as he did as a police officer, he swore to protect the Constitution and to stand on those grounds and on those morals. And he made that stance. And it ultimately cost him his job. And that is completely wrong. And it looks like he lost his job for insubordination because he refused to take the video down after he was informed by his superiors to remove it. And I honor him for standing on his moral convictions. But is this the way America should be? Where officers enforce the Constitution, ultimately get terminated? Wrong. That's not how America should be. And what's it going to take? For the people who have granted these people the power, the people meaning all the people within the states, counties, and cities of the United States, standing in armed conflict against the government to uphold our constitutional rights? Because the one thing that Greg Anderson was pointing out in his video is that here in the United States, the power of the government is solely given to them by the people. And in our own Constitution and Declaration of Independence, when that government becomes so powerful that they're tyrannical, the people have the power to rise up against that government. And then the second video is one I ran across, comes out of New Hampshire, of two police officers going up to a group of citizens with their children who are playing on a playground. And they tell them they must remove themselves from the playground, that they can be in the rest of the park, but they cannot play on the equipment. And of course, these police officers are walking up to them with gloves on and masks on their face. And they're telling them they must leave. And the citizens stood on their convictions that our Constitution supersedes anything those police officers were saying. And there was quite a verbal exchange between them. The police officer says, we're here to enforce the rules and regulations that we are told to enforce. And the citizen says, but you're not to trample on our Constitution. Of course, that's a roundabout way of what he said. And he also informed that you're supposed to support the Constitution. And by ordering the people out of the park, where is that in our Constitution? It is not there. So in other words, that order of that police officer was unconstitutional. And yeah, we could fight it in the court system. But what happens in the meanwhile if we choose to stand on our moral convictions that we have a right to certain rights within our Constitution, the right to bear arms, the freedom of speech, the freedom of travel, And our government says, nope, can't do that anymore. Well, guess what? That is taking place currently across the United States, where we're told to stay at home because of COVID-19. Everybody's walking around fearful. We have businesses now starting to open up again in the Portland area, and they're requiring you to walk in with a mask on and gloves. It's ridiculous. Why is it ridiculous? Well, number one, the masks they're wanting you to wear, unless they are N95 masks, they do little to no good to stopping that virus. The virus microns are so small, it will go through the material unless it's an N95 mask. And most of these people wearing masks aren't wearing N95 masks. And so what good are they actually doing? Thus, I continue to refuse. Number two, why is there such fear over this COVID-19 disease? We don't do this when the flu takes off and 70,000 people get killed roughly in 2017. We didn't lock everything down. We didn't kick kids out of school. And yet that's what they're doing here. And on top of that, because of the COVID-19, now they're telling us we can't assemble in church. But I can go to the liquor store and buy my beer, alcohol, my wine, or my Jack Daniels if I so desire. But I can't go to my church. I can go shopping at Fred Meyer, but I can't go into the local mom and pop store. Although they're now starting to open up on a limited basis, and they have to do all this social distancing garbage. They're having to put up plexiglass that separates the cashier from the customer. Most businesses aren't accepting cash. You have to use plastic. And some businesses are wanting you to wear gloves. Why? Out of fear. What am I getting at? Currently, governors like Kate Brown of Oregon, Jay Inslee of Washington, that fruitcake in Michigan, are putting out orders that are, by all intent and purposes, unconstitutional. And keep in mind, these aren't the only governors doing it. And we've got law enforcement now arresting and citing people on what ground? What crime did they commit? Not following an unconstitutional rule, an unconstitutional executive order? And that's what they get cited for. Who knows? I'm not sure what they're being cited for. Not following a lawful order? I bet you that's probably the one they're reaching to, because that is what the one officer in New Hampshire actually threatened the people who were refusing to get out of the park. He threatened to arrest them for not following a lawful order. But my point is, their lawful order is actually not lawful, because their rule that they're trying to enforce is unconstitutional. And so I'm frustrated that we had a good officer up in the Seattle area, Greg Anderson, losing his job because he wanted to do one thing: protecting the citizens by upholding their constitutional rights. The next case I'm bringing about is one that I've heard here very recently, took a look at, haven't gotten into all the details yet, but it involves 4 police officers who ultimately killed an individual. And they did it because they had him down on the ground. It sounded like they were putting a foot or a knee or something on his neck. He complained he couldn't breathe. Ultimately, he goes unconscious and he dies. Why? What was his crime initially? Forgery. And he loses his life by these police officers for forgery? Now, my understanding is these 4 police officers have now been terminated. But that doesn't help the guy they just killed. And what did those police officers do? Stomped on that guy's constitutional rights. Might be a criminal, but he still has rights granted to him under our U.S. Constitution. Albeit there is a caveat to that, and those are the illegal aliens. But I am not saying by all means that the police officers should treat those illegal aliens inhumanely. They should at least be treating them under the grounds of the Constitution, even though they are not a U.S. citizen. So there we have it. Are our constitutional rights actually being trampled on in the United States? I would say yes. Resoundingly yes. You can't assemble. You can't do your First Amendment right of assembly. in church or to go to a business. You can't do your First Amendment right to go and sit and watch a NASCAR event, or to go to the Republican National Convention or the Democrat National Convention. You can't do those things. You can't assemble. COVID-19, you're going to spread the disease. Everybody's in fear. So we lose our right to assemble. And the governors are enforcing it by arresting and citing people, and citing pastors because they have the audacity to resist their order and to open their churches. Now, here in Oregon, we are slowly starting to see some things opening. Some churches are now starting to open, but they're on a limited basis. Here in Oregon, currently, under their Phase 1 plan, they're only allowed 25 people. Now, I can tell you the church that I currently attend could seat well into the 500 people. So why are we being limited to 25? I don't know the exact numbers of my church, but I would say my church has probably about 200, 250 people every Sunday. And there's also a Korean church that utilizes another part of our church, and I'm not sure how big their body is. So we'll estimate 200 to 300 people are in the church every Sunday. And we still have a lot of seating space that goes unused. So we could very easily fit at least the church I'm in, not the Korean church, in our main sanctuary and distanced by families. Maybe not by 6 feet, but do we really need to be 6 feet apart? If you haven't been sick, you haven't been around people who are, so why can't I go to church? I've been in isolation for months now. Coming on months. June, I suppose, would be months, because this all started back in March. So we've been in confinement March, April, and May, and I've barely gotten out of the house to do various things, usually some sort of shopping that we need for necessities, and that is just frustrating that I can go shop at Fred Meyer, but I can't go shop in Mom and Dad's store. It's as if Kate Brown's going, these are the guys that put our biggest bank in our pockets from business taxes here in town, in this state. And so we're going to let these guys stay open. Meanwhile, we're going to close everybody else down because they don't drum up enough revenue for us. It's just wrong. If Kate Brown keeps Home Depot open and Fred Meyer open and Lowe's open, she shouldn't have shut down all the other businesses. And now we got businesses that are failing. Now, the last one I want to bring up is a business owner. This guy's out of North Carolina. Ran across his video this last weekend. He's a former military personnel who came back and opened up, sounds like a couple of different gyms in the North Carolina area. I'm not sure specifically where at North Carolina he's at. I can't remember. But he opened up his business in spite of their governor's orders to not. And he gets a police officer who comes in and tells him to shut the business down. And then he ultimately gets cited. And then the chief comes and talks to him, takes the citation back, has what apparently was a fairly cordial conversation with him. And then he goes back and he keeps his business going, doing social distancing while people are in there, making sure they're checking for people's temperatures when they come in the door, that they're not feverish. They're wiping everything down when they're done. And so they're doing all the precautions that the CDC says to do. And the police officers come back. And this time, it's the same captain that didn't like the guy the first time. And he tells him he is now the acting chief because the chief got suspended. Why? Because he was refusing to enforce these orders that are unconstitutional. So not only are we seeing police officers losing their jobs, but we're also seeing police chiefs losing their jobs because they won't enforce these unconstitutional orders. And this is wrong. As citizens, we need to make our voice heard. I'm doing it through this YouTube video, hoping people would view it. I get very few views, usually about 6, 7, 10, although some of them reach more than that in numbers of views. So I hope more people see this video. I want to thank you for taking your time to watch this video today. I greatly appreciate it. Please do what you can to make your voice heard. If you want to stand on our rights, make your voice heard now before we lose them. Because if they can tell you you can't assemble, what other right are they going to take away? Are they arbitrarily going to come up with that you can no longer have firearms, and now they're knocking on your door to turn over all the ones because you followed the law and filled out a 4473 form? Is that what's next? Because they've gotten away with not allowing us to assemble. Who knows? Maybe we'll lose our right to travel on a permanent basis. Don't know. Time will tell. But make your voice heard. Stand on your moral convictions now. I'm not telling you to go out in armed conflict. Let me keep that straight. But as a Christian, you can make your voice heard. Watch my video I did on submission to government. Check that one out. I'll put a link in the video. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you're all taking care of yourself, and I hope you're not sick with COVID-19. Take care. God bless. We'll talk to you next time. Hi, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to watch one of my videos. Please hit the like button below, and if you would, hit the subscribe link up here, and take some time to watch one of my other videos. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day. God bless, and take care of yourself.